When we picture epic stories, our minds usually jump to mighty heroes, right? Men with swords, carving their names into history. And the book of Dede Korkut, this incredible epic of the Oghuz Turks, is absolutely packed with them. But if you look a little closer, woven into all those legends, there's another story, a story that's often overlooked, the story of its women.
So that's the real question we're digging into here. In a world that seems built around these larger-than-life male heroes, what was a woman's place? Was she just a prize to be won? A quiet figure standing in the shadows? Well, the stories of Dede Korkut paint a picture that is way more complex, and honestly, so much more fascinating than you'd ever expect.
All right, let's start with one of the most powerful roles a woman held, the wise counselor. The stories show us that a woman's voice wasn't just, heard, it was actively sought out. It could literally change the destiny of Khans. A perfect example is the story of Dir Sehan. He gets publicly shamed for being childless, and his first reaction? Just pure rage, and he points it all directly at his wife.
I mean, the brutality of that threat is just shocking. You've got this powerful Khan, his honor is wounded, and his immediate thought is to kill his wife. He blames her, he blames fate, and he's ready to solve this problem with his sword. And in a way, it's the kind of patriarchal rage you might expect from an ancient epic.
But just look at her response. It is extraordinary. She doesn't cower, she doesn't argue, she doesn't plead. Instead, she meets his fury with this incredible, calm, strategic wisdom. She basically tells him, look, the problem isn't me and it isn't you. The solution is piety and good deeds. She advises him to hold a huge feast, to be charitable, and to pray for a child from a place of generosity, not anger. And get this, it works. Her advice wasn't just some nice idea, it was effective. Dir Sehan follows her instructions to the letter. He throws the feast, he helps the poor, and because of these actions, they're blessed with a son, the future hero, Bogach Khan. So in the end, it was her wisdom, not his sword, that solved their greatest problem.
And this wasn't just a one-time thing. The epic actually has a name for this role, Dishi Ehili, which means the wise female folk. So when the story says Dir Sehan acted with the word of the Dishi Ehili, it's not just saying he listened to his wife. It's acknowledging a recognized cultural institution. A woman's wisdom was seen as a legitimate social force, a kind of expertise that you'd be a fool to ignore.
Now, this wisdom wasn't just for peaceful times and giving advice, it also showed up as decisive, powerful action in a crisis. The mother of that same hero, Boachan, shows us a whole other side, how a woman could turn her grief into action, becoming both a warrior and a sacred healer.
So, later in the story, things take a dark turn. Boach is betrayed and left for dead, shot by his own father's arrow, no less, all because some jealous warriors lied about him. When his mother realizes he hasn't come back from the hunt, her heart just drops. But instead of collapsing in grief, she immediately springs into action.
And she doesn't go alone. No, she gathers a search party of 40 slender-waisted maidens. Now that term might sound delicate, but don't be fooled. These aren't just her friends. They are an armed, mounted escort. They're warrior women. In this moment, Bogach's mother becomes a military leader, guiding her troops into the mountains to find her son. When she finds him, Boach is right on the brink of death. But a divine figure reveals the cure in a vision. And this is where her power shifts from warrior to healer. The remedy for a wound that no doctor could fix is a mix of a mountain flower and our own breast milk. This is so symbolic. It's the fusion of nature's power with the sacred, life-giving force that a mother possesses. The story says she literally wills the milk to flow, mixing it with her own blood when it won't, to create the medicine that saves her son's life. Incredible.
Okay, so up to this point, we've seen women as these respected counselors, as leaders, as healers. They're absolutely central to the survival of their families and their clans. But the Dede Korkut Epics don't give us a simple fairy tale. They also show us a much, much harsher reality, one that stands in stark contradiction to everything we've just seen.
So let's just recap, right? We've firmly established that these women were pillars of their society. They were wise counselors, they were military leaders, they were sacred healers. They commanded immense respect.
But then you read a line like this from another story. After a castle is conquered, the victors divide up the spoils of war. And what's on the list? Right alongside the finest fabrics and the best hunting birds? The prettiest of the girls. In this context, captured women are treated as actual property, a prize to be distributed, with the best portions saved for the Khan.
And this right here is the core contradiction. How can a woman be a revered, wise one and also be listed as plunder. It seems to come down to context. Within her own tribe, she is a pillar of society. Her wisdom is sought, her leadership is followed. But in the context of war, a woman from a defeated enemy could be completely stripped of her humanity and treated as just another object. It shows that a woman's status was incredibly fragile, powerful and respected on one hand, but terrifyingly vulnerable on the other.
So, the women in these epics are anything but simple. They are wise counselors and disposable plunder. They are military leaders and prizes of war. This ancient, complicated picture really forces us to ask a tough question. How much of this contradiction still exists today? In what ways do we still see a woman's value, her agency, and even her safety depend entirely on whether she's considered one of us or one of them? It's a lot to think about.